In the sunshine of Brands Hatch, the second weekend in the GT4 European Series is about to get underway. Race 1 is on the grid. We have the cars for 60 minutes of racing after a rather strange period of qualifying yesterday, with the interruptions caused in part by people starting off the road, which in part were caused because of mixed weather conditions. Well, today the forecast is that it's going to be dry all day, fingers crossed. It's not the warmest of days, but at least the teams have dry track conditions. And it's a jumbled grid that we have for the first of the two GT4 European Series races. It is a 1 hour race, mandatory pit stops between 25 and 35 minutes for 98 seconds, pit in to pit out. And another great grid of cars. We have Aston Martin, McLaren, Mercedes, there's Alpine on the grid, there is KTM, Ginetta, BMW, the list goes on and on and on, and we're in for a storming first race, no question about it. The Brands Hatch Grand Prix circuit is in use, David Addison trackside, and race 1 of the 2 here set to get underway. The winning car from Monza's double-header won both races, the McLaren of Benjamin Lassem and the British driver Dan Mackay, starting on the outside of the front row of the grid. Pole position in the qualifying session yesterday having gone the way of Florian Thomas, who shares with Akhil Rabindra, and because that car's got a first and a fourth out of the 2 qualifying periods, evenly matched drivers therefore, and that's going to be a car to watch. We had a few drivers in the wars with damage yesterday. At the very end of Q2, we lost Sohail Ayari, very experienced driver Sohail, but he went off at Sterling's. The car, we understand, has been repaired. One of the KTMs that we did lose though yesterday was that of Laura Kreihammer and Dominic Olbert, so that's a non-starter. A badly damaged Ginetta has been rebuilt, put to the back of the grid, so it missed qualifying, but Max Jobe will start in the first stint in this race. But all eyes, perhaps for the British fans, are on Dan Mackay, who is the man that will do the second stint in the car on the outside of row 1 of the grid. And Dan Mackay, double winner at Monza, looking good here at Brands. He's with our reporter, Dakota Jane.
Well, David,
right. We've just had the 5-minute ball display down here on the grid, which occasionally we're going to have to leave the grid fairly soon. The members of the teams that are directly involved in the starting of the cars remain down here on the grid, but everybody else is making their way off the grid because we are about to get racing for the day underway. And I can't wait.
It's going to be a good day, isn't it? Brands Hatch, sports car racing, sunshine, what's not to like? And I think as David Allison alluded to yesterday, most manufacturers now concentrate on it. If you build a turnkey race car, that will bring in the gentleman drivers. The gentleman drivers will then bring in some of the young guns as well, particularly, we see so many silver graded drivers now coming in and doing GT4, and we've got so many different manufacturers represented on this grid. GT racing generally globally is in strong health, and GT4 in particular is looking very, very positive for a future, isn't it?
It really is, and SRO, the organising body that's pretty much changed the face of GT racing across the world, have not only saved GT racing, but also grown it into what it is now in every corner of the planet. And that's reflected in the fact that
Race 1 of the GT4 European Series here at Brands Hatch is just about to get underway. Apologies for the break in transmission, but we are good to go. The grid is being cleared, David Addison trackside, and this enormous field of GT4 cars, 17 rows worth, stretching all the way back to Clark Curve. Let's have a walk up the grid and see Florian Thomas starting on pole position in the Aston Martin. Alongside him is Benjamin Lessen's McLaren. The yellow Mercedes is started by Max Cobalt, and alongside the Aston, David Griesner will go first. The quirky KTM with the front bodywork up to get some ventilation in. That's going to be started by Patrick Niederhauser, and Lucky Treff's Mercedes is alongside. The Alpine next to Pierre Sonsinena, and the Porsche Cayman in the hands of reigning AM champion Nikki Leutwiler. Then it's Matt Cowley in the Aston Martin there, the silver and grey car, ex-Formula Ford gun, and alongside him is Meindert van Buren Jr. in the Mercedes. The next of the KTMs is started by Mads Siljehaug, and Simon Knapp's black BMW lines up alongside despite a trip through the gravel yesterday. Guillaume Romain is 13th on the grid with his Alpine, and alongside is Koen Bogarts with another of the MDM Motorsport BMWs. Jan Reinig for Schwede Motorsport comes next for Mercedes, and Ewan Mackay, brother of Dan, that's at the front of the grid. His BMW is on the outside of row 8. Row 9 is the hugely experienced Alain Ferte, and Constantin Schürrle is alongside with a 5-place grid drop from an infringement at Monza. Next comes Marius Stug and the Audi of Cedric Freiberghaus. Behind them, Paolo Meloni's BMW and Jean Glurieux with the green Mercedes. On the next row, you get to Levent Kovacic, the Turkish driver, and Philip Becker in the Mercedes alongside the BMW. The next row, Fiona James sharing with Tom Wood in the Aston Martin, and it is Lisette Brahms in the McLaren for company. On row 14, Jamie van den Belt with a 5-place grid drop in the 007 Aston Martin for overtaking under yellows in free practice. James Holder's older generation Aston Martin is alongside, ahead of Oleg Karuch, and then Pascal Bachmann in the 017 Aston Martin. Stephen Patrick with a 5-place grid drop from an infringement at Monza comes next with Eric Mouet alongside. And Max Jobe starts at the back of the grid, having crashed in free practice, and therefore that car missed the 2 qualifying sessions yesterday. That's your grid for the first GT4 European Series race. Pit stop window, 25 to 35 minutes. Pit in to pit out, 98 seconds. If you are under that, then the timing data screams at the race director and a penalty can fly from the stewards. If you're over it, well, you're losing time that you don't need to lose. A tenth or 2 is ideal, but if you're losing seconds by erring on the side of caution, it could well prove costly. After Monza, the Silver Cup, led by Dan Mackay and Benjamin Lessennes, double winners. The Pro-Am competition by Marius Zug and Gabriele Piana, and the AMs by Jean-Luc Behetz and Johan Vannerum. They took 2 AM Cup wins in Italy. Formation lap underway then. The green flags wave. This is not the start of the race, of course. They don't stop on the grid either. They go straight into racing if the race director is happy with everybody's position on the grid. And now you start to see just what a magnificent field of GT4 cars we have. This is a category that SRO has stuck with for well over a decade. It was a really slow burn. It took a long, long time to get off the ground, if you like, because for many, many seasons it was tuners taking cars and making them into race cars, which didn't really attract the entry in quite the way I anticipated. But then the manufacturers started to realise there was a market here, and the likes of Mercedes and McLaren and Aston Martin and others started to build a turnkey car that the amateur driver, the track day driver might want, and that in turn really did attract the entries and more teams to come into the championship. So it appeals to the AMs and to the teams because it's a well-manufactured car in the first place that they can then just run, and the entries have really improved in the British GT Championship, in the Blancpain GT Series Asia, and of course in this standalone GT4 category, the GT4 European Series. The French GT Championship, for example, is purely GT4. Ginetta has been one of the mainstays, certainly in the UK, of GT4 racing, just the one example of the G55 on the grid. And there it is in the hands of Max Jurve for the opening stint. BMW represented on the grid. The Alpine, great looking car, very, very good in the International Challenge in Bahrain at the end of last season. The Mercedes, the AMG GT4, the Porsche Cayman, the 718 style iteration of the Porsche Cayman, another bullet-shaped car that, and the field turning its way then down through the right-hander of Hawthorns here at Brands Hatch on the full Grand Prix circuit. So at the end of this lap, everybody will get themselves back into the 2x2 formation, the Noah's Ark formation for the rolling start. On pole position, it is Florian Thomas, and therefore he is going to be the man that will lead them up towards the start of the race, with Benjamin Lessen alongside him. Benjamin having been the race winner of both stanzas at Monza. Florian Thomas, who's raced in the TCR 2-litre touring car category. And he's got Akil Rabindra as his co-driver, a former BMW junior, but he's also raced round here in the likes of British GT and the BRDC Formula 4 Championship. But Florian Thomas, as I say, will do the first stint. The team's ready in the pit lane, and now as they come through Stirlings, everybody starts to get themselves then lined up ready for business. Max Kobold, the 2017 European GT4 champion, starts third on the grid in the yellow Mercedes, and then fourth you've got number 19 with David Griesner, who's graduated from the German-based BMW 325 Racing Cup. He will start from fourth on the grid. So they come then now down towards Clearways. The 60-minute race, not a set number of laps. The flag goes out the first time the leader crosses the line, once 60 minutes are up. It is always conceivable on a busy Brands that you get a safety car period. Let's see what pans out then as we get set to go racing. It's race 3 of the GT4 European Series. The pace car, as it is, peels into the pit lane. The field now starts to accelerate its way up towards the timing line, with Florian Thomas at the front of the grid. Benjamin Lessen in the McLaren alongside. Florian Thomas gets the advantage as they accelerate their way up towards the line. Now the light should go to green. The race gets underway. They blast away towards Paddock Hill Bend for the first time. Florian Thomas on the inside line, then in the Aston Martin. On the outside line is Benjamin Lessen. He slots back in behind him. Max Kobold goes third, but then goes wide. And up the inside there, David Griesner, in the next to the Astons, goes third. It's Thomas that will lead them up towards Druids. The KTM there, Patrick Niederhauser, goes diving up on the inside line. But the Mercedes hangs onto the pace as they drop downhill for the first time, then into Clearways. The top three just starting to edge clear, ever so slightly. But look how crowded it is coming onto Cooper Straight. The BMW there going for a gap that's barely there. They're almost 3 wide. Look at this, going down towards 30s. Brave stuff. And off the road has gone the Alpine. There's bodywork flying, so that gap wasn't there for very long. When we last looked, there were 3 cars together. The Alpine has gone rally crossing and he's back on again. And there's more drama, I fear, up at Surtees as the leading trio gets away. So it's Thomas from Lessen, from David Griesner, as they come now for the first time round the right-hander of Hawthorns, and they sprint along the short straight up towards Westfield now. Max Kobold then running in 4th place. Away goes the Alpine, recovering after the dramas down at Surtees, and now the field accelerates its way up towards Stirlings for the first time. So the leading 3 getting away a little bit here. Through they turn, and Florian Thomas it is leading the pack. Treble 7 accelerates through, that's Jan Reining, and now the cars come towards the right-hander of Clark Curve up toward the end of the opening lap. So Florian Thomas trying to make good his escape as they come over the timing line, but is he being allowed to do so at the end of the opening lap? Thomas leading Benjamin Lessen by 0.7 of a second. Max Kobold going through down in 5th place, so he's lost out to Niederhauser, and Nikki is going after him, then Simon Knapp as well. The start is under investigation. The leaders turn their way out of Druids, and the gap at the end of lap 1.794 of a second as they turn through. But Florian Thomas, Benjamin Lessen and David Griesner, Aston, McLaren, Aston, 3 British brands leading at Brands Hatch, are doing their best to get away now. Pierre Sorcineno was the driver of the Alpine that went off the road, so he has fallen to the very back of the grid, having started midway up the order. In fact, he was on the 4th row of the grid, so Sonsinena's been in the wars for sure on the opening lap of the race, as the cars now work their way down towards Hawthorne's lap number 2. Battle is on here, look, because you've got Nikki Leutwiler in the Porsche, defending for all he's worth. Simon Knapp comes up, has a go on the outside line. Nikki Leutwiler, another hugely experienced driver, being able to stick out his elbows here and hang on to the place. Simon Knapp, though, goes up the inside into Westfield, and he should go through. He does go through. Simon Knapp gains a place, and more mayhem. Round goes Leutwiler, and he got a tag there from Mads Siljehaug in the KTM. Leutwiler, I fear, is in the gravel on the outside of Westfield. Mads Siljehaug gets going again, but if Leutwiler can't get out of there, you know what's coming next, don't you? So Nikki Leutwiler, whose career started back in 1979, very experienced driver. The KTM, if it doesn't pit, is going to get the meatball flag, because that bodywork is getting looser and looser and could well be a danger to others. So down they come at the end of lap number 2. There's a yellow flag in sector 2. The leader is Florian Thomas. He was 0.794 of a second up last time around. We've got one car bailing for the pit lane as well, incidentally, as the leaders come out of paddock, and Thomas now is getting away. Lessen second, third is Griesner, and Patrick Niederhauser fourth, going after them in the KTM. The rest of the field pouring its way through paddock. And it's number 8, Ewan Mackay, that is in the pit lane. It's the Eckris run BMW M4. And Nikki Leutwiler tumbles down the order as a consequence of the incident. So big dramas. Nikki Leutwiler no longer circulating. And there are drive-through penalties coming now for a number of cars for being out of position at the start. So how is this going to affect the race? Number 31 is one of them, Meindert van Buren. 26 is another, Koen Bogarts, and number 8, which has just pitted for the drive-through, I fear, Ewan Mackay. So that's taking that out of the mix. And yellow flags wave. We are going to go safety car, are we? He says yes, the boards are there, and everyone will slow down. The safety car, no, full course yellow, apologies. Full course yellow we are getting. So that's why everyone has slowed, to get Nikki Leutwiler's car out of harm's way over at Westfield. So you saw the contact between the Porsche and the KTM. Let's have another look at the start. 1 or 2 people being given a drive-through for not being in the correct place, and that doesn't necessarily mean that you're too far forward. What the race director doesn't want you doing is moving across. He wants one car behind the other, and if you're away from the white lines, then you will get a penalty for being out of position. But Florian Thomas from pole gets the advantage, leads down towards paddock. Have a look in the pack here. You've got people jinking out a little bit too early for the race director's liking, partly to see where they're going, but also to try and gain an advantage on acceleration. So the cars funnel through paddock, 1 or 2 up the curb, but Florian Thomas making a good start, hanging on to that race lead then as the cars round Druids. Now this is where it all kicked off. Pierre Sonsinena going on to the grass, losing bodywork. This full course yellow helping him a little, trying to catch up. And there, up the inside, Siljehaug, he was alongside, but he was up the curb, tagged the Porsche. Nikki Leutwiler, you see, ends up in the gravel bed, and there, the recovery operation is underway. So Nikki Leutwiler's car being brought to safety. We've got another one making its way down the pit lane, presumably for a drive-through, which will be Meindert van Buren, I fear. So the Mercedes comes down the pit road. And if you think the GT4 cars look purposeful, just wait till you see the equivalent in GT3 trim later on in the day at Brands Hatch. But the Mercedes, another great car for the GT4 teams to operate, user-friendly. And now, having served the drive-through, gets back in the pack with 35 there, Alain Ferté for company. Alain Ferté in 16th place when he came over the line. Mads Siljehaug, though, is staying out, isn't he, despite the damage. But of course, at this slow speed, it doesn't look quite so bad. It's when he goes quickly and the air gets under it. There is Nikki Leutwiler's car with damage, either a puncture and or broken suspension. He's going to try and limp back. Let's hope that it's not broken suspension, because if the wheel parts company as he's heading to the pit lane, then we're going to have an even longer delay. But you can see the car does not want to go in a straight line. And that wheel doesn't really look like it wants to stay on anymore, does it? And that was the side that the contact was on. So Nikki Leutwiler limps back to the pit lane. He wants to get the car back rather than abandon it, because then he'll give the team time to work on it, ready for race 2. There's a very tight turnaround between races, because the second GT4 European Series race is at 2:45, and that's the start of the race, never mind the time getting to the grid. So is Nikki Leutwiler going to give up this? I think he is, having said he was going to try and bring it back to the pit lane. Is he going to park it? That will mean that the team gets less chance to work on it. Anyway, I think he's realised that it just does not want to go in a straight line. So the Marshals saying, can't park here, Gov, go and park over there where there's a vehicle access gate and you'll be off the track. what Nikki might do, I suppose, is try and stay on the grass out of everybody's way. We'll see what he does, but you can see the extent of the damage there. As under the full course yellow, everybody now makes the run up towards the right-hander of Sheen Curve. And Nikki Leutwiler has brought the car to a stop. And there is the broken suspension, potentially loose wheel. Nikki Leutwiler, I have it in my mind, was in the gravel here last year when he was driving a McLaren. Number 24, Mads Siljehaug, is under investigation for an avoidable collision. And the ever-lightening Alpine there, still shedding bodywork, of Pierre Sonsinena is in 32nd place and trying to play catch-up, but he's caught up to Ewan Mackay after the drive-through. But bodywork peeling back all the time on that car.
Minutes of the race still to go. We are just about to complete lap number 4.
So the car's up towards the timing line. This has put 4 laps in the book. All of these count, of course, within the hour of the race. And as they move their way up over the line, the lead gap remaining, because of course they're running at this delta speed rather than all bunching up as they would under a safety car. Whether the safety car will be brought out for a lap to bunch them up ready for a restart, we'll have to wait and see. Some race directors do that, others don't. You don't have to do it, it's at the discretion of the race director. Now where's Leutwiler gone to? Has he got going again to try and limp back to the pit lane? He's behind the fence, I understand, so the car is out of harm's way. And we go green then, so we're racing. This is where the drivers have to be on their toes. Green flags fly, we're back racing, and straight away the action is on up towards Druids there as David Griesner makes his move for second, and up the inside for third goes Patrick Niederhauser in the KTM, side by side down the hill. Florian Thomas is away like a scalded cat, and he now leads over 2 seconds to the good. Benjamin Lessens second in the McLaren, third David Griesner, Patrick Niederhauser behind him, and then Max Kobold trying to come back into the mix with Simon Knap going after them. So a brief pause while we have the full course yellow. We're back racing, and Florian Thomas now getting away. He's bolted, and Benjamin Lessens is having to defend for all he is worth now. Down they come towards Hawthorns. So David Griesner it is, they're in third place. Patrick Niederhauser, another very experienced driver who got to GP2, GP3 level single-seaters, then moved to GT racing. He is in fourth place. Max Kobold, former GT4 champion, is fifth. Simon Knap, massively experienced GT4 driver, is sixth. And look at Niederhauser, goes for the inside line, breathes in, he's up the inside of Griesner and he goes through. Patrick Niederhauser then goes through up on the inside line. That gives him third place now. And Benjamin Lessens McLaren is the next target as they work out of the left at Stirling's. Down they come now towards Clark Curve. So Patrick Niederhauser, who's become in a short space of time a very proficient GT racer, whether it's GT3 or GT4 machinery, he's up in the third place. But whilst this battle is going on, 5 of them for second place. Look at the gap that Florian Thomas, the race leader, has pulled. He goes by that battered Alpine, by the way, we were looking at. He's in the pit lane. But up front, Thomas to Lessens is 2 seconds now. The cars dive down through Paddock Hill Bend, and Benjamin Lessens is having to work overtime, but Max Kobold's coming under pressure from his former teammate, Simon Knap. They shared a car last year, and Knap is on his tail as they go around the right-hander of Druids. The BMW, which you could argue looks more touring car shape than GT shape, but it's a very good, effective GT4 machine. And then behind them you've got Lucky Treft also starting to close up in the Man Filter Mercedes. There he goes, and of course because they're all squabbling and holding each other up ahead, he's able to catch. Benjamin Lessens in the McLaren just cannot get away. So the little KTM, this 2-litre turbo car, whistles its way onto the tail of the McLaren. Downhill they come. Up front, Florian Thomas getting away within the first sector. That man there, Patrick Niederhauser, has done the fastest lap of the race. Fans looking on, thinking, I'd like one of those, I'd like one of those. And Benjamin Lessens McLaren is in second spot, but for how much longer? Niederhauser tucked up behind him. David Griesner in fourth place. Kobold dropping back ever so slightly, but Florian Thomas here is getting away. And if he can build a good lead, this is going to put Akhil Rabindra in the box seat for the second stint. Lessens in the McLaren then, run by Franz Verschuur's team. Franz himself, a hugely experienced one-mate racer before turning his attention to GT4 and running teams. He comes, Benjamin Lessens, the young Belgian driver, through Clark Curve, and the frustration is he can see the leader getting away, but he's so busy having to defend, he can do nothing about it. There's another car under investigation. It's Stephen Patrick for overtaking under the full course yellow. Stephen already had a grid drop from an infringement at Monza, and down the pit lane is coming Koen Bogarts now in the FDM Motorsport car for his drive-through penalty. So up through Druids, second, third, fourth, then fifth, then sixth, all in a line. Knap and Kobold have caught up to the traffic, look, as they turn their way now through Druids. Back into the race goes Koen Bogart, so that's going to drop him a long, long way down the order though now as he turns into Paddock Hill Bend. He will get out just ahead of number 61, Fiona James, which means that will put the car into 23rd place. And Stephen Patrick, incidentally, having just talked about the fact that he's had another penalty, we've just had an incident for the other Mercedes of Oleg Karuk coming over the timing line. There it is, up against the wall. So that's going to be a safety car straight away. Oleg Karuk was wide coming out of Clark Curve through the gravel, kept his foot in, got back on the road, lost it across the road and has ploughed into the pit wall. So the safety car is going to be deployed, and they might have to bring them through the pit lane because there is debris all across the circuit. The race director, if he's aware of that, and he will see the pictures, will probably try and get the cars to come through the pit lane as quickly as, but that means the safety car needs to be scrambled very, very rapidly, and he's not going to pick up the lead in order to do that. So this is going to be a real issue now because the drivers are going to have to go either on the grass or pick their way through the debris. The Marshals are there very, very quickly to try to get the big bits out of the way. Oleg Karuk is okay, and look, all the drivers being told, go wide, go wide, go wide. And onto the grass. In fact, the message has got through. You can see the Mercedes there, but to the right, the field are coming past the incident zone, having to take to the grass. Ideally, they'd come down the pit lane, but you can't get the safety car to the lead of the race in time, given its parking place. So next lap through, they could cut through the pit lane, but by the time the safety car had been scrambled, of course, they were coming down through clearways. So the drivers responding very well to the flags. Here's the replay. So wide through the gravel, he's gone, comes across the road, out wallop, straight into the wall. Oleg Karuk kept his foot in to try and drag it off the grass, but then the back broke away. You see all the shards of bodywork. It's like an eggshell exploding, isn't it, as all the bodywork goes across the road. And the point being, you do not want to run race tyres over that, because otherwise you're going to have punctures aplenty. From another angle, the first impact has come, there's the second, boom. So that, I fear, we won't see in race 2. Number 66, massive off for Oleg Karuk. That car run by Bullet Racing. So I'm talking about Stephen Patrick having a penalty. That's the sister car. So it's not a happy day for that squad. Oleg Karuk, who's come from the Baltic Touring Car Championship. And the recovery vehicles are on their way. But it's really getting all the bodywork off the road that's going to be the concern. So as I say, it could be that they run through the pit lane next time. It might be that the road is clear. So the volunteer marshals, the Orange Army, goes to work. And it's at times like this that you appreciate just how important their involvement in the sport is. Safety car on track here at Brands Hatch, and look at that. I hate to think what the damage bill is, but all of that needs to be swept off the road and indeed moved away from the grass in case anybody were to put two wheels on it at the start of a race. So safety car on track here at Brands Hatch, and I hate to mention that safety cars breed safety cars, but everyone bunches up, of course, this time. Let's see what happens on the restart. There's Nikki Leutwiler watching on. The car parked at Sterling's, and as Oleg Karuk is out of the car, his co-driver, Ivan Lukasevich, is watching all of this, very frustrated indeed, and he can offer his thoughts to our reporter, Dakota Jane.
Ivan, you must be very frustrated with that. It's never a good sight to see, but the driver's okay, yes?
Yeah, the main thing is Oleg's out of the car. So far, we don't know what's going on, what happened there. I think it was in a fight with one of the Aston Martins. We have to look at the video. But the good thing is, after such a big crash, he walked out of the car. That's what we're happy about.
And you were probably looking forward to racing here this weekend. Do you think your car's going to be possible for race 2, or you don't know the full quality of the damage yet?
It looks like a very big damage to the chassis, so I think we'll be back in Paul Ricard.
See you, Paul Ricard. Thank you.
So Ivan Lukasevich's day is done. The safety car is bringing the field down through the pit lane, incidentally, as I suspected it might have to. And there you can see what's left of the front of that Mercedes. Two big impacts, possibly a twisted chassis as well, but there's very little left around the front of that. I mean, proof that Mercedes builds a very strong car. And there the field, all accelerating out of the pit lane. They've not all got drive-throughs, but genuinely that's the best way to do it because of the amount of debris across the circuit. So it's just much safer to keep the race running through the pit lane, and the race will continue. So we're not yet at the pit window, but we won't be far off, I fear, when we get the race back underway. So the safety car through the pit lane. You don't see it very often, but it is a very good way of keeping the race running. Otherwise you'd have to red flag it, which nobody really wants. So frustration here as we eat into the racing time for these drivers, but of course they get another stint in the second race a little bit later in the day. everybody blasting through. The pit officials making sure that everybody is behaving themselves down the pit road. At the very back of the queue is the 017 Aston Martin that is started by Pascal Bachmann, and Clement Seiler will take over for a second stint, so Clement will be in a big hurry to try and get himself up the order. There's also liquid that's been spilt inevitably on the road as well, so you've got the car to be removed, you've got bodywork to be swept up, you've got liquid to be treated. There it is. Marshals hard at work. As I say, we couldn't do this without them. And excellent work going on to get the race back underway as quickly as possible once that track has been cleared. So it doesn't matter how technology moves on, a man on a broom is still essential in motorsport. And now the delicate operation of moving the Mercedes without more bits falling out of it, I fear. This could be quite a long safety car period. The pit window is between 25 and 35 minutes. And the teams rethinking what they do now in terms of when to bring in the cars. So here at Brands Hatch, it is race 1 of 2 in the GT4 European Series. The race is being led by Florian Thomas, and behind him, Benjamin Lasserre, the man that won both races at Monza with Dan Mackay a couple of weeks ago. So we will get things back underway as soon as we can after that big incident for Oleg Karuch coming out of Clark Curve. So Florian Thomas leading the pack, and as far as the classes are concerned, if you look to the leader of the Pro-Am class, 7th overall is where Luc Treves is in the car that he shares the Mercedes with Marcus Pavarud, and the leading Am car at the moment will be in 28th, and it's the all-girl crew, Lisette Brahms and Gabi Ulyi. Lisette, who normally drives with husband Luke, but he's recovering from recent ill health. Luke can get well soon. There's another replay of Oleg Karuch headbutting the wall, not once, but twice, effectively. And of course, the car also coming to a pretty sudden stop on that second impact. So another lap is being done down through the pit lane as the cars come through. And we've got another car being investigated for overtaking under the safety car. I'll tell you what, if you're a steward in GT4 racing, you're being kept busy this weekend. It is the Pascal Bachmann Clement Seiler car that's being investigated. Well, that's in last place. I'm not quite sure what overtaking it did, but anyway, it's being looked at. Might have been in one sector and then given the place back. We'll see what the stewards decide to do. So here they pour out of the pit lane once again. Pit lane speed gun is being operated to make sure that nobody is doing anything naughty there either. And we've got 9 laps in the book. It's not often you have a race that includes 2 different laps. It's like a joker lap from Rallycross, isn't it, by going through the pit lane? Slightly different configuration for a number of the laps here. We've got that chicane pit in, plus the pit lane itself. Everybody in GT4 with the Satina banners across the windscreen. Satina, part of the Swatch group, as is Blancpain, that lends its name to the GT3 series. And Satina watches go to the pole position driver in each class as well, so they will be on the podium at the end of the race. So the drivers will be up there at the end of the first race to celebrate. And there we are looking at a very sorry sight. Number 66 Mercedes, the recovery team have swiftly got to the car and got it out of harm's way. Now the road is clearing. Debris gone, but still the liquid is being treated. And it won't be long, hopefully, now before we are good to go racing once more. As the Brands Hatch Aston Martin fans there see a happy sight, because it's their car leading the pack. The Audi safety car turns through, and now drivers getting ready for the driver change. That's Jeremy Sahi down in the pit lane. Now, if you're running the car through the pit lane and the pit window is open, that's going to make life very, very busy. But I think the road is probably clear enough now to let the cars actually go through on the track. We'll see what the race director decides to do at the end of this lap. Temperature's dropping as well here at Brands Hatch, incidentally, but I don't think the weather's going to have anything like the heavy rain that we had yesterday. So the team's still with this dry circuit to look for. So they turn now up towards Sheen Curve. And we'll see at the end of this lap what the recovery process is. I think the car, yes, the flatbed is just about to leave the circuit. That's now the last shards of the bodywork, the debris being swept out of the way. So we should be in business pretty shortly, all being well. Nikki Leutweiler out of the race, having started 8th. The Pro-Am pole position was looking Treffs, wasn't it? Just thinking about pole positions from yesterday's qualifying session. And there, the broken Mercedes taken away. So swiftly off the road. The barrier, there's not much you need to do to a concrete wall. That just stays where it is. They will do one more lap down the pit lane. Here they come. And we might even be able to go racing, you know, at the end of the next lap. He says slightly optimistically, but the excellent work of the Marshals. We're almost there, but they'll need to be very, very careful on that slippery surface. Still more sweeping to try and soak up the liquid. So through the pit lane they come. Back on track, and this first GT4 European Series race then continues. So 1-2 gaps have opened up a little bit here. I know they'll close again as the field get back on track, but we've got 2 waves of cars at the moment. Some drivers being slower through the pit lane than others. So Florian Thomas leads the way. That's looking Treffs in the Leipzig Motorsport Mercedes, the Pro-Am leader in 7th place. The Pro-Am opposition is coming from Jan Redig and then Guillaume Romain. They are 10th and 14th, whereas 7th is where you find the Pro-Am leader. And the leading Am remains Lisette Brahms in the McLaren. So, as the tractor beetles away, the road is going to be clear. We could even be back racing this time, as I was suggesting might be the case. Lucky Treffs up towards Surtees. So not only are we going to go racing imminently, but the pit window will be open imminently as well. So it's perfectly timed for the race director. The last thing you want during the pit window is the safety car out, because it just confuses life hugely. But we will get back underway very shortly indeed as the cars turn onto the Grand Prix loop. We started with 2 Porsches, we're down to 1. There's only 1 Audi in the race, and another scene you seldom see. Tractors and transit vans going the wrong way around the circuit. Now they're off the track, the road is clear, and so we, fingers crossed, can go racing this time around. The safety car will be in this time, and the lights will go out. That's the indication to the Marshals to withdraw the yellow flags to the drivers behind that the race will be back underway at the end of this 11th lap, and with it the pit window will open. So it's going to get very, very busy indeed. So it could be that you get the safety car in and then a long, long queue of cars as well behind. Do you get the pit stop done now while everyone is bunched up, or do you stay out a bit longer, try and gain track position while other people are in the pit lane? Partly depends whether you've got your quicker driver in for this stint or the second. The teams will have decided all of this, I'm sure, and they'll be thinking on their feet as the safety car then heads down towards the approach to Sheen Curve. So the cars ready to go racing once more. Ear defenders on, young fans get set. The lights are out then. Florian Thomas lets the safety car go. He will control the pace then. The safety car sprints down towards the pit-in approach, and Florian Thomas leads the way. Benjamin Lessen right up behind him. Still, of course, having to think about Patrick Niederhauser in the KTM behind. Bit of weaving going on now to bring the tyre pressures up again, to get the tyre temperatures back up to where they need to be. As into Clark Curve they come then. Florian Thomas will lead the way. The cars accelerate away. Now Lessen goes for the pit lane. Pretty much everybody else stays out, but Benjamin Lessen comes in, so Florian Thomas gets away. There's another queue of cars coming in as well a bit further down from midfield. As up to second place goes Niederhauser. David Griesner is third. Kobold fourth, and Griesner tries the outside line going into Paddock. Doesn't do it. So Patrick Niederhauser stays second. Max Kobold there in fourth in the yellow Mercedes. Simon Knapp gets up the inside of him, does he, in the BMW? They're almost side by side. Knapp goes through, gets his nose in front. Max Kobold wide up the curb, and Simon Knapp has done it, but he's on the outside line for Graham Hill Bend. Kobold comes back up the inside, they lean on each other. The BMW has got enough momentum to hang on the outside line, and he's got the job done, or has he? Yes, he has. Simon Knapp there is ahead, look, and Lucky Treffs is under attack from Matt Cowley, the very promising British driver, new to GT racing this year, Matt Cowley, and he's on the back of Treffs in the yellow Mercedes. So, Cowley, 7th, one to watch here. He was briefly on pole position in the qualifying session, dropped down towards the end, and there, I'm afraid, in the pit lane, 26, but it's not a problem. It's the driver change for Koen Bogarts to give way to Mark van der Aert. You saw Benjamin Lessen in to give way to Dan Mackay. They worked so well together at Monza with those 2 wins. Pit window is open. Cars pouring their way up now towards Sheen Curve, and the race leader Florian Tomat by 1 second on the restart, leading the pack. But of course now it's a different car, different driver chasing him. It's Patrick Niederhauser, and way wide there goes one of the Alpines, slides back onto the road, just about survives the experience, and so number 9 back onto the track. That's the car of Guillaume Romain that Sohail Ayari crashed yesterday. Mark van der Aert is away. And here, look, is the midfield scrum. Constantin Schürrle in the Cayman. Around the outside in 007 is Jamie van der Valk in the Aston Martin. More go for the pit lane. Now, the race leader, Florian Tomat, is 7/10ths up as they come over the line. So Florian Tomat here is staying out a little bit longer, trying to build the gap once more. Niederhauser second, Griesner third. Knapp fourth, there he is. 5th is Kerbel, 6th is Treff, 7th is Cowley, 8th is Jan Reinig, 9th is Alain Ferte, and then 10th now, Jamie van der Valk. Word about Alain Ferte, massively experienced driver, but if you go back to 1988 and the halcyon days of Group A touring cars, he was Tourist Trophy winner at Silverstone with Andy Rouse in the Caliber 4 Sierra Cosworth. There, out to the Grand Prix loop goes Simon Knapp, the BMW, chasing after David Griesner now for 3rd place. Of course, the order shuffles as we have the pit stops. The lone Audi has been in as well as Cedric Freiberghaus to give way to Nikolai Müller-Manson, last year's Silver Cup champion. And there is Tomat, but look at the way that Niederhauser has got onto the tail of him. 2 very different types of car, the Aston Martin and the KTM, the much lighter but much less powerful car, right on the tail. Here they come, up now through Sheen Curve, a run down towards Sterling's. Nicky Leutwiler thinking, I want to be in this race, but fingers crossed that car can be repaired for later on. Cowley is ahead of Treff, so we had a change for 6th place, look. Matt Cowley into the top 6, staying out a little bit longer. Leaders come through Clark Curve. Is Niederhauser in? Yes, he is. The 2nd place KTM, there it is, look. Comes into the pit lane through that chicane, put in to slow the pace down. So it's an Aston 1-2 again. Florian Tomat goes through in the lead of the race. In 2nd is David Griesner. Simon Knapp staying out a little bit longer. The KTM comes in. Now watch the front bodywork. You open it up, push it away from you. Easy access. The rest of the pack battles through. So we need to be looking next at where the best of the pit stoppers are. Florian Tomat leading the race. There, Patrick Niederhauser gives way to Reinhard Koffler. But look, you see, although we've got the roll cage, the bodywork opens forward. Driver in and out. So Niederhauser, who had done the absolute best first sector on that lap before he bailed for the pit lane, goes through the stop. 14th over the line, Dan Mackay in the McLaren that was running in 2nd place. Well, he'll gain another 3 places after that because of pit stops. So he's chipping his way up the order, and of course we'll start to see after everybody has made their pit stops who has gained and who has lost on the stops. So a pit stop is 98 seconds, pit in to pit out, including the driver change. That's all you need to do. You don't have to change tyres or certainly not refuel. Constantin Schürrle coming under attack there in the Porsche. So 22 turns through. In fact, that had a change of driver now, hasn't it? It has gone to Clement van Parijs, who we didn't see at Monza, but he will race here. He's taken over that car. He will start race 2. So Van Parijs is in 22 Porsche now to confirm. The race leader, Florian Tomat, is going to do another lap, so he's making the most out of this stint. Goes through. David Griesner likewise in 2nd place. Simon Knapp, Max Kerbold and Matt Cowley leading 5, all go through. And there, rejoining is Reinhard Koffler. So actually a pit stop costs you a lap at the moment. 98 seconds means you lose a lap. David Griesner has now done the fastest lap of the race. And more pit stops are cycling through. Through has just gone down Mackay. So number 14, McLaren, that last lap was a 1:33.2, meaning he's lapping just fractionally slower than the leading car at the moment. In other words, the gap is being maintained, if not extended, between the Aston Martin and the McLaren. So Florian Tomat leading. Dan Mackay, new into number 14, but he knows the car, of course, from racing it at Monza. Let's see what progress can be made. So 18, Tomat, race leader, up through Hawthorne. He's got the road to himself. And it is David Griesner, his teammate, chasing on behind him, the Pro Sport Performance cars. first time Florian Thomas has raced here. He's doing a very good job, isn't he? Pole position and leading this stint and controlling the full course yellow and the safety car restarts. But his co-driver is getting ready. So Akhil Rabindra, the Indian driver there, ready to go. I think that meant he was going to do the second stint rather than suggesting the cameraman should go away, but he's ready to go, suited and booted. And is it this lap on which Florian Thomas will bail for the pit lane? He comes into Clark Curve, he tightens the line, he lifts, he comes in. So Florian Thomas gives up the race lead. David Griesner will inherit it. Question is, can that red Aston Martin get back out ahead of the number 14 McLaren, which is the best of the pit stoppers at the moment? Let us see. So we've got Simon Knapp staying out for another lap. So over the line has just gone number 14 of Dan Mackay. There is 18. So Dan Mackay's back on the lead lap now. Can he do another one while that car is in the pit lane? Number 4 is in, so that's Max Koval to give way to Jan Kishiel. You notice the way the cars, because of the number of them in the race and the length of the pit lane, they don't stop parallel to the pit lane. They have to go nose first, because otherwise you just don't have the space to get everybody in if there are lots of cars wanting to stop at the same time. So nose in, that sort of herringbone formation when the cars line up. Got some very quick sector times being posted. Andy Merrick doing an absolute best in one sector, Ricardo van der Ende in another. Not unexpected, they're both excellent drivers, but shuffling the order, and at the end of the next lap, I think pretty much everybody will have had to have served the pit stop. Never quite got to the bottom of who demolished all the hoardings on the outside of the road at Hawthorne, did we? But somebody's had a drama there earlier on in the race, as through goes Reinhard Koffler. Number 4, Jan Kishiel, waits for the signal to be pushed back. So the KTM here is actually just ahead of Dan Mackay. I think I'm right in saying, let's just double check. They certainly were ahead last time over the line. So that will put the KTM now as the best of the stoppers. So David Griesner comes into view and into the pit lane. So David Griesner will give up his lead. Simon Knapp comes in as well. And that therefore means that the next car over the timing line is going to be number 16 to take the lead of the race. The KTM goes through then. Reinhard Koffler now is the race leader. In second place, as the cars head up towards Druids, is going to be the Aston Martin, and third is the Dan Mackay McLaren. So there they go, look, that now is Akhil Rabindra ahead of Mackay, but ahead of all of them is the number 16 KTM of Reinhard Koffler, which has got quite an advantage, Reinhard Koffler now. He's done the fastest lap of the race already, so he's looking very strong indeed, and their pit time was 98.8 seconds. Very good indeed. What was the McLaren's pit stop in comparison? They lost 2 seconds in the pits, whereas it was, yeah, again, 2 seconds lost by the Aston Martin. So a very, very good pit stop by the Reiter KTM team to get that car cycled through and back out again. Bas Lijnsdale with his back to us, timing the pit stop for David Griesner, but gaining 2 seconds on the pit stops has put this car in the lead. So it was 98.8 seconds. That's very, very good indeed, and it's gained over the opposition, Aston Martin and McLaren. So Koffler now leads the way, and look, he's got the road to himself, whereas Akhil Rabindra is coming under attack, not only from Dan Mackay, but look, suddenly into the race has come the one and only Audi. Last year's champion, Nikolai Müller-Madsen, taking over from Cedric Freiberghaus, who pitted early. The safety car helped by bringing them back into the equation, but Nikolai Müller-Madsen is right up there now. Looks for the inside line coming down towards Clark Curve. Akhil Rabindra under attack, and while they're squabbling, this is all playing into the hands, of course, of that car, the KTM that leads the way. Back into the race, look, he's going the Simon Knapp BMW after the driver change that now puts behind the wheel of it Alec Udell, the American racing here for the first time. David Griesner has given way to Jeremy Sahi, and way out wide there, Jan Kishiel coming through Paddock Hill Bend. There's another shuffle. Will Moortruss get up the inside of the background. Kishiel versus Udell as they go through, absolutely side by side. They battle these cars early on in the race, change the drivers, but they're still tied together, aren't they? So Reinhard Koffler leading the way at the moment. But I reckon after all of those pit stops that you've got that wave of cars we've just seen rejoining, like Kishiel and others, perhaps shuffling themselves up the pack. Let's see, because we need another look at Reinhard Koffler and then count the order through. So there you've got the battle between Rabindra from Mackay from Müller-Madsen. In the background is the Jan Kishiel Mercedes. So Reinhard Koffler getting away. He was 9 tenths up last time over the timing line, and right now he's being helped by the fact that here in second place, Akil Rabindra is defending solidly from the Dan Mackay BMW. Nikolai Muller-Madsen comes up to attack once more. So down they come, Koffler leading. This is the battle pack for second place confirmed. Nikolai Muller-Madsen fourth in the red Audi, up towards the timing line. He has a tentative look to the inside, but can't really make the move there. Gap back in fifth place. It's going to be Jan Kishil in the yellow Mercedes. Through they go. The lead gap is now 4.3 seconds. That is a monster of a gap. And actually, look now, Mackay falling back into the clutches of Muller-Madsen, so Rabindra being released. But can he do anything about that KTM? Reinhard Koffler doing a very good job indeed up front. So Reinhard Koffler, former BMW racer, knows all about KTMs from GT4. He leads the way, but 4 seconds clear. Dan Mackay third, under attack from Nikolai Muller-Madsen. And we've got a few cars pit stops under investigation. Koen Bogart's Mark van der Aar BMW is one of them. The Jean Gloria Mercedes is another in the stop that gave it over to Guillaume Dumoulin, and number 15 as well, the Ginetta of Mathieu Imminently. That's being looked at, but they're not really those cars with respect within the leading group, so won't affect what we're watching too much. There is Dan Mackay going through. Now, is Rabindra able to do anything about Koffler? No, he's not. He's losing out in the sectors. The gap is going up and up and up. Frustratingly for Mackay, he's got to defend. And frustratingly for Muller-Madsen in fourth, who might fancy his chances, he hasn't got the speed to get by. Now look at this wave of cars lower down the order. In and amongst it, 33 is Andy Merrick. On his tail is Ricardo van der Ende. So this little group takes you, what, from 12th place back. And again, you see the variety. Mercedes, BMW all squabbling amongst themselves, with Aston Martin in the mix as well. Here they come up the hill. Mark van der Aar ahead of Julien Darrat in 007. Behind him is Bas Schouten, then Andy Merrick, the man that runs the British Racing Drivers Club Superstars programme now. Over the line goes number 1 Audi, that's Nikolai Muller-Madsen. We've got 21 minutes of the race to go, and the leading gap is up to 5 seconds. And look, Dan Mackay is back onto the tail here now of Akil Rabindra for second place, and has a look going up towards Druids. So feels like he needs to get on with the job. He's caught back up. Can he dislodge the Aston Martin without leaving the door open for Muller-Madsen to find a way past him? Nikolai Muller-Madsen is right there on his tail. And this is what GT4 is all about. 3 different brands, 3 different types of GT4 car, all running as one. And Akil Rabindra hanging on a second place, but it was just that slightly slower pit stop that has hurt them. There is a stop-and-go penalty for car number 30, which is the Jean Gloria Guillaume Dumoulin Mercedes for being too short on the pit stop. But the timing screen isn't telling me on what length of stop-go penalty it is, but we'll try and get to the bottom of that when the car comes into the pit lane. So number 30 for a stop-go. I think it was only a couple of tenths of a second under, so it will be a very short stop-go. There is 18 then, Akil Rabindra, and Dan Mackay almost pushing him along now, but Brands is not the widest of circuits, and GT cars are wide things. So where does he find the real estate? Nikolai Muller-Madsen goes up the curb. Dan Mackay pulls back in again. He's trying to unsettle Akil Rabindra, who now into the stint, got himself into a rhythm, and he's defending nicely. Muller-Madsen just lagging back to wait and see what develops. Over the line they come. There's a 1 second stop go for Mark van der Aar's BMW as well. And Dan Mackay has a look up the inside, but wasn't really close enough that time. Through the corner, out of paddock, up towards Druids. Now the McLaren is close enough. Dan Mackay jinks to the right, but there's no way through. And he's also got to try and cover off Nikolai Muller-Madsen in the Audi that goes to the outside line round the hairpin at Druids. Downhill they come. Mackay working overtime here. He's trying to keep third place away from Muller-Madsen, but he also wants to get up past the Aston for second if he can. Akil Rabindra just ahead for the moment. They're going through. Number 13 is Mark Bosseng, former GT1 world champion. He gets himself onto the back now of Ricardo van der Ende, who's on the back of Andy Merrick. Got some very, very good drivers here, working their way up the order from what their co-drivers were up to in the first stint of the race. On now to Cooper Straight. They all pour with 19 minutes and counting of the race still to go. So Reinhard Koffler leading the way by 5.7 seconds. Here, 007 is Julien Darrat, who's got himself up then ahead of Bas Schouten, who in turn has got Andy Merrick, and then Ricardo van der Ende up behind him. Ricardo van der Ende in the BMW. That's the car that Ewan Mackay started, the brother of Dan Mackay. We're watching in the McLaren in that second place duel. Merrick trying to get up the inside of Schouten here on the inside line. Can't do it, but he covers off the challenge of van der Ende, who in turn has got Mark Bosseng right up behind him, another hugely experienced GT racer, Mark Bosseng. GT1 World Champion, Nürburgring 24-hour winner, looks for a gap on the inside. Ricardo van der Ende knows exactly what he's doing in the GT4 BMW though. He's had great success. And he comes out of Sterling's now. You see how people have been running wide at that corner over the weekend, digging the trench behind the curbing, which has been flattened and extended a little bit for the DTM visit here last year. Out of Clark Curve they come, up towards the line again. And getting away here is Julien Darrat over the timing line. So Darrat over the line was in 11th place, gaining ground because the Ginetta has just had to serve a pit stop-go penalty. Up front, the leading gap is still 5.7 seconds as there, Merrick almost joins Baschhouten in the car. He's that close. Ricardo van der Ende is next up in the BMW as they come down towards Graham Hill Bend. Van der Ende has a look up the inside, can't do it, slots back in behind. One car missing this weekend, sadly, is the Chevrolet Camaro that did lead at Monza, the Olivier Hart Duncan Houseman car, which is a shame. Hopefully that'll be back later on in the season. But right now, you're looking at Akhil Rabindra, who has got away from the new third place car. Nikolai Müller-Madsen is ahead of Dan Mackay. So we've had that change out of sight for third place. And more shuffling, I think, has gone on lower down the order as well. So we did have Kisiel in 5th and Alec Udell in 6th spot. But now Nikolai Müller-Madsen up into 3rd. That's Gabriele Piana going through in the BMW in the bottom end of the top 10, 10th place. Mackay coming under attack then from Kisiel. What happened to the McLaren? He's lost a place and he's lost a chunk of time. Was that a little error made by Dan Mackay? And equally, can Müller-Madsen do what Mackay did not do, and that's get past Rabindra? Even if he can, he's got to try and make up 6 seconds, which is a very tall order indeed. But Müller-Madsen, a winner here last year, released now, going after the Aston Martin ahead. Through Druids, turn out of the hairpin, downhill they plunge. 16 minutes are on the clock. So if Müller-Madsen can get through, he might be able to do something about the leader, but it's going to be a tall order. Müller-Madsen then riding shotgun. Cars powering their way down once more towards Hawthorns. Into the right-hander, the Audi shaking off the challenge of Dan Mackay behind. So can the Dane do anything about the Indian driver ahead of him? Through Hawthorns they turn now. Swing their way uphill. Through the right of Sheen Curve. Left at Sterling's. Now Müller-Madsen needs a good run out of here to try and line up an attack on the inside. And even if he can't do it at Clark Curve coming into the corner, if he can get a good run through and get the line, force the door open going into paddock, that could be where the move comes. Let's see, but he hasn't quite got the grunt to stay with the Aston Martin. He's good through the twiddly bits, but the Aston with all that power, look, he's able to stretch its legs in a straight line. So Müller-Madsen's going to have to try and be late on the brakes, claw back, 2 lengths that he's lost. He does that going into paddock, but he's got to dive up the inside, and you can see now why the Aston was such a problem for Dan Mackay to get past, who, of course, also is coming back at them now. Into the pit lane is coming the Mercedes for its stop go. Reinhard Koffler's advantage is getting bigger and bigger all the time. Over the dirt on the inside there goes the Mercedes and Mark Beseng as he lines up to have a go against Ricardo van der Ende. We've got the Will Moore Aston Martin coming into the mix as well as Beseng tries once more to get up the inside line. Yet again, he's got a face full of BMW. The race now with 14 minutes still to go. Back into the race there goes the Mercedes, stop go completed. That is the second place duel. Akhil Rabindra is still staying ahead of Nikolai Müller-Madsen, who is really good and brave and quick through this section of the circuit. You see how bumpy it is through Westfield. GT3 as well as GT4 cars showing the bumpy nature of that section of the circuit. Müller-Madsen then using the curb. He's got the speed. He's on the grass though. Too much speed through Sheen Curve. He's close right up onto the back of the Aston Martin and then runs wide, saved it. He's on the dirt again, look, coming out of Sterling's. You can see the frustration now. Müller-Madsen knows where he's got the speed, but that's countered by the Aston Martin being so good in a straight line. There is a drive-through penalty going for number 26, which is the BMW for causing an avoidable collision. That's the Mark van der Koen-Burgart's car that's already had a stop-go for a pit infringement. So it's not its race, is it, number 26? Replay here of Muller Madsen running wide, out of Sheen curve, drifted wide onto the grass, but he saved it. Knew exactly how to bring the car back onto the road. Accelerates then now down towards clearways once more. Race leader is on lap 24, and we've got just under 13 minutes of the race to go. And there is Muller Madsen again on the back of the Aston Martin through Surtees, tight corner, he's right there. Pulls out, this is his best chance yet. Can he go all the way around the outside, heading into Hawthorns? He's going to have to be really, really brave, but he's done it. Excellent move. Nikolai Muller Madsen goes through on the outside line, up into second place. Akhil Rabindra will fight back, but this is the part of the circuit where Muller Madsen is stronger, the Audi is quicker. He needs to maximise that and try and get away. I'm not suggesting he's going to be able to make up 8.4 seconds to the race leader, but it's going to be intriguing to see what happens. And what happens is he goes off the road and he's going to lose the place, he's going to lose the lot. Round he goes, he's heading for the barriers, boom! Into the Armco, 2 laps in a row. Nikolai Muller Madsen has got it wrong coming out of Sheen curve, and this time it's with worse effect. He's off into the barrier, into the gravel, he gets away again. But Nikolai Muller Madsen, so determined was he to get away from Rabindra. Again, too much speed carried through Sheen curve, round he went and walloped into the barriers. And I think that's for the pit lane and retirement. He's dragging it back, but he's just realised the extent of the damage. So Nikolai Muller Madsen backed right out of it, and others have to take evasive action. He wants to get across the circuit now, which is the risky bit to get to pit in. So Nikolai Muller Madsen is effectively out of the race, and Akhil Rabindra is back into second place, grinning in his crash helmet, having seen what went on as far as Nikolai Muller Madsen was concerned. He doesn't often do things like that, Nikolai. A rare error, but a very costly one indeed. So where's the next drama going to come from in this race? Well, from Reinhard Koffler's point of view, he hopes there's no drama because he's got this very, very comfortable advantage. The Phoenix Racing team, busy here as well as Moser's squad, now watches the car come down the pit lane. Here's the replay. Look, he's too fast in. He's on the grass, but this time, so much speed did he have, he couldn't save it. Back comes round. He missed the Aston. Hooray. But he found the barrier twice, front and back. And I feared that's where it was going to end up, in the gravel, but he's out of the gravel, but only as far as the pit lane there. The team assesses the extent of the damage, and there's a lot of work to be done before race 2. We'll see whether they can get the car back out again, but it's, if it is possible, only really for testing purposes. So here is Reinhard Koffler, the KTM, utterly dominant in the second stint, whereas of course it was chipping its way up the order in the first. And so much of that is down to Koffler's pace because he's done the fastest lap of the race, but significantly it was a pit stop just about 2 seconds quicker than the opposition that put the car ahead after the stops, and from then on he's been able to get away. And Nikolai Muller Madsen apologises to the team. So the race order now is Koffler from Rabindra, Dan Mackay there in the McLaren third, Jan Kishiel is fourth. Little battle going on here. Andy Merrick, number 33, comes up to have a go at Will Moore in the Aston Martin. This is for 10th place now as they turn through paddock, and Ricardo van der Ende tries to get at the inside of Andy Merrick. Side by side they make the run, and the Bullet Racing Mercedes keeps its place just about, but Merrick goes wide and van der Ende goes through on the inside there. Andy Merrick went to the outside to try to get past the Aston, and he's lost a place for the BMW in the process. Behind him, look, Tom Wood around the outside line in the Aston. Goes ahead of Mark Besset. Really good move that for 13th place. Excellent bit of driving. Tom Wood, the man from Derby, started in Ginetta Junior Racing. His career greatly helped by the support of Donington Park Circuit, and Christopher Tate, the then managing director, who helped Tom in his early days of racing. Christopher here, I think, to cheer him on as well. He'll be well impressed by that. And Tom, a real asset to GT4 Racing. So Tom Wood getting himself up the order in this car that he shares with Fiona James. So that's made good progress from its grid position, in fact. It's working its way nicely up the pack. Tom Wood is not done yet either. Can he get another position? But I tell you, Mark was saying he's a good scout to claim. Over the line goes Koffler. And with just under 9 minutes of the race to go, the KTM swings down through Paddock Hill Bend. Second, third, fourth. Over the line, Akhil Rabindra, Dan Mackay, Jan Kishiel. So it's KTM, Aston Martin, McLaren, and then Mercedes in the top 4, illustrating the variety in the championship. In 5th place, it is Alec Udell in the BMW. In 6th place, it's another Aston of Jeremy Sahi, and there they are. Newcomers to Brands Hatch, Alec Udell in the BMW, doing a good job here, as we saw at Monza, defending nicely. And then the rest of the field filing through. So Alec Udell through in the BMW. Here, look at the inside, number 62. Will Moore, Ricardo van der Ende is alongside him. Andy Merrick tries to buy back into this, get the place back. He lost here a lap ago. There you go, Ricardo, he says. That's what happens if you're on the outside line. Van der Ende, though, stands his ground on the inside, and Tom Wood gets past Andy Merrick on the inside. Both on the run a little bit wide. Now Mark Versenk tries to make his move. He's got two wheels on the grass. Elbows out, he's coming through. So Andy Merrick, I'm afraid, has got well and truly mugged there, hasn't he? Because he's lost two more places. And the man from Chester falls back in the pack. So the VLDC superstars might remind him of that, but Andy Merrick, I'm afraid to say, losing out. It all started by trying to go back ahead of Van der Ende, but he found himself on the wrong piece of tarmac. Through went Tom Wood, and then through went Mark Versenk as well. As you look there at Alec Udell, who has got Jeremy Sari behind him. Alec Udell, who's raced GT cars in the American series, the Pirelli World Challenge, now coming across to European racing this year, going nicely. But everywhere you look, pretty much, there's a good squabble going on, and we're not yet done for second, are we? Rabindra versus Mackay versus Kisiel, still not quite resolved, but getting between them 4/10ths in each case. 0.4 Aston to McLaren, 0.4 McLaren to Mercedes. Up the hill they come. 7 minutes are on the clock still. So turning their way now out of Druids, down through the left-hander at Graham Hill Bend. While they're squabbling like this, the lead gap is 6.6 seconds, but Reinhard Koffler is looking mighty at the moment. And KTM getting away, and the rest of the pack now turning from Surtees once more onto the Grand Prix loop. Dan Mackay flashing the lights, more in hope than in anticipation of anything happening, really. That's certainly not going to get Acura Rabindra to say, yes, of course, I'll let you through in the second place. What he's trying to do is distract him, force a mistake out of him, see what can come as a result of all of that. As the leaders then blast down towards Hawthorne. Number 2, Mercedes, 7th, Marcus Pavara. Now, he leads in Pro-Am, but right there behind him, look, is the BMW. Gabriele Piana has taken over from Marius Zug. So this is the Pro-Am lead battle now. Through they turn. They're squabbling for 7th overall, but for a class win. So this is an important fight, actually, as the cars now make the run up through Sheen Curve once more. Brake hard, turn left. Meantime, this next battle to look for is for second place, with Dan Mackay coming back at second place, Acura Rabindra. The leader goes by Reinhard Koffler. And there is a drive-through penalty for Will Moore in 10th place for exceeding track limits. So track limit abuse, Will Moore being given a drive-through. 2nd, 3rd, 4th, they've all bunched up now. Acura Rabindra feeling the pressure once more. Down the hill they drop into that left-hander of Graham Hill Bend. And is there going to be an opportunity now for Dan Mackay to find a way through? He spent most of this stint staring at the back of this car. For 5th, Alec Udell's BMW versus the Aston Martin of Jeremy Sari. Along Cooper Straight they go, and Sari is close but not close enough to make a move. Yes, he is, though. At the end of the straight, he has a go, and Alec Udell leaves the door open as he takes the line for the corner, but he comes out ahead. And now, which has got more grunt in a straight line, the BMW or the Aston? At the end of the straight, the McLaren of Dan Mackay comes up to challenge second place Acura Rabindra. And the run down towards Westfield, the right-hander now still keeps Acura Rabindra ahead. At the back of this little group, Jan Kisiel saying, wait for me. He's almost with them again. He's dropped off the back by a couple of lengths. So where do we look next? It's second place that's taking up attention. 4.5 minutes and counting here. A full course yellow and a safety car to interrupt the race, but this second stint has had some great racing in it, as again Kisiel has a look on the inside of Mackay. Mackay right under the rear wing of Rabindra. Now, is he going to be able to stay with him in order to make a move up towards Paddock? Yes, he is. I think he's staying close enough now. Over the line they come. Last lap he was only a 10th back. This time he tries to make the move. Wide in, tight out. Might be the go. Let's see. Can he get the undercut? Can he switch sides? He's up the curb. Wants to try to get the inside line going up towards Druids, which he does think about. Goes to the outside. Everything Mackay tries, though. It looks as though Rabindra has got covered. Good drive this by the Indian in terms of how he's defending for place. And Dan Mackay needs the inside line at Graham Hill Bend. Is he going to be able to dive through on the inside? He's not. Again, Rabindra knows exactly what's coming and positions the car accordingly. Along Cooper Straight they go now. Brake hard, turn left. Nose to tail, they swing through the corner onto the Grand Prix loop once more. you see the way the Mercedes dropped back again in a straight line. Dan Mackay taking the battle in that very aero-friendly McLaren to the Aston Martin, cuts through the air nicely. Further back, this now is the Pro-Am battle. It is still Pavarud ahead of Piana. Gabriele Piana, the Italian driver who lives in the shadow of the Nordschleife of the Nürburgring, so he can ply his trade in the VLN successfully. So an undulating circuit like Brands Hatch should have no fear for him. Gabriele Piana then goes out of the right-hander of Westfield, but Marcus Pavarud is hanging on to that place, doing another good defensive job here. He's raced in Norwegian GT racing and TCR as Pavarud before coming into this championship last season. Number 48 going through, that's another of these very fleet Alpines. That's now got David Loger behind the wheel of it. And David Loger is in 24th place. He's on the back of Clement Seiler there. Clement Seiler up on the back of the grid, taken over this car that was started by Pascal Bachmann, former rally driver. But he's under attack, is young Clement Seiler. Started off in motocross, relatively new to car racing, but adapting very, very well indeed. His father Antoine, former TWR press officer back in the Seltcut Jaguar days, for example. And comes now, that car out of Sterling's. That's the race leader, who is going to squeeze one more lap out of it at the end of this. And Reinhold Koffler leads by 4.5 seconds. The gap's come down, but he's got everything under control here. And the Austrian driver comes down into the right-hander of Hawthorns. Being told about one car not doing its drive-through, and that's therefore going to be converted into a 30-second penalty. Trouble is, the car's retired from the race, so it's all rather academic anyway. That's the Koen Bogarts Mark van der Aar BMW. For the Pro-Am contest, though, Marcus Pavarud is still fending off 1-1-1 here. So Gabriele Piana, try as he might, has not been able to find a way through as the cars make the run up towards the right-hander once more of Sheen Curve. That's where we lost Nikolai Müller-Madsen earlier on, remember? And Marcus Pavarud only has to defend now. It doesn't matter what he wins by in terms of a margin, as long as he stays ahead of this BMW to do the class win. Down to Clark Curve they come. So they'll get one more lap out of the race. As I say, the leader has gone by, and Reinhold Koffler, the gap is coming down 3.5 seconds, so it's enough, but it's certainly falling from where did we have it at 1.8 seconds. Second, third, fourth, they all bunch up again on this, the last lap of the race. It's Kissiel in the yellow Mercedes that goes a little bit wide up towards Druids that time, and Dan Mackay will go to sleep tonight with the back of that Aston Martin ingrained in his mind, won't he, because he has stared at it for the best part of half an hour. Along Cooper Straight they go once more, up towards Surtees. Turn into the left, onto the Grand Prix loop once again. And for Pro-Am honours, we're not done yet either. Gabriele Piana is running out of time. Is there a gap on the inside? Not yet, not yet, not yet, almost. Door closed. So Gabriele Piana tries to prise open the door. That was his best chance yet, then to try and dive bomb on the inside line, but Marcus Pavarud fends him off. That's the race leader, soon to be race winner. And the KTM, it may not have quite the same cachet by name as a Mercedes or a McLaren or an Aston Martin, but it's a very, very effective GT4 race car, and it's been very well driven indeed, because Reinhold Koffler and Patrick Niederhauser are on target for the true racing team in the KTM Crossbow GT4 to win race 1 at Brands Hatch. The checkered flag is at the ready, and Reinhold Koffler and Patrick Niederhauser win here at Brands Hatch. The KTM victorious. The car takes the checkered flag. Reinhold Koffler brings it home ahead of Akil Rabindra, Dan Mackay, and then Jan Kittel, second, third, and fourth as they come over the timing line. Fifth will go the way of Jeremy Sari, ahead at the end of Ali Udell, so the Aston rather ahead of the BMW. And to win Pro-Am, Marcus Pavarud and Luki Trefts ahead of Gabriele Piana and Marius Zug. The gap in Pro-Am at the end, 0.239 of a second, very, very tightly bumped indeed, and Gabriele Piana left right off. He's tried everything to get past the Mercedes, but to no avail. And the next battle pack pouring through Sterling's. Still there is drama to come. The field pouring over the line. You've got Julian Daraf 8th, Ricardo van der Ende 9th, ahead of Tom Wood, Andy Merrick, Max Tresoli, then Van Parijs, and here, 48, the Alpine of David Loger on the back of Clement Seiler. So Clement Seiler is going to take the place. I think Seiler will be 22nd. Takes the checkered flag after a good defence. So the GT4 European Series, as ever, delivering drama, delivering action. And that second stint certainly giving some great racing. First, of course, affected by that early full course yellow and by the safety car. But great drive by Reinhard Koffler and Patrick Niederhauser to score the win. And the cars now will make their way through to Parc Fermé. And in the case of some of the teams, some very, very industrious work needed before race 2, which will come up later on in the afternoon, 2:45 local time. So race 1 at Brands Hatch in the GT4 European Series, won by Reinhard Koffler and Patrick Niederhauser from Florian Thomas and Akhil Ravindra. Dan Mackay and Benjamin Lessem take third ahead of Jan Kishiel and Max Kobolt. Fifth, Jeremy Sari and David Griesner ahead of Simon Knapp and Alec Udell. Seventh gives Luki Trechts and Marcus Paverud Pro-Am honours ahead of Marius Zug and Gabriele Piana. Julian Darra and Jamie van der Balk, a really good run from a fair way back on the grid to take 9 from the top 10, rounded out by Ricardo van der Ende and Ewan Mackay. Look further down the order, inevitably some hard luck stories. Matt Cowley and Will Moore dropping down to 18th after that drive-through for the track limit drama. The Ginetta up from the back of the grid to 21st. Pascal Bachmann and Clement Zeiler doing a good job to get 22nd. John Gloria 24th, he had a drive-through. Mad Sillyhaug had damage, remember, from earlier on. And we also had Mark Baseng drop a long, long way back towards the end of the race as well. And the first casualty, Nikki Leutweiler, into the gravel. Quite a few retirements, including, of course, that badly damaged Mercedes of Oleg Karuk. So, Reinhard Koffler saying KTM is the brand to have. Patrick Niederhauser comes down the pit lane to say well done. And Reinhard Koffler will be delighted with that result. A very, very good drive. And he needs to thank the guys in the pit lane, because that very slick stop was what really allowed them to jump the opposition. Had they got out in the traffic, it would have been very hard, I think, to get through. But by being ahead of that battle, just able to drive off into the distance. And 98-second pit in to pit out was the regulation. 98.8 was their time. That's pretty much perfection, isn't it? A really good job done. So, very good job done. We'll hear from Reinhard Koffler and Patrick Niederhauser, our race winners.
Guys, a massive congratulations. What a race that was. Really good with the pit stop strategy there. That definitely won you the race.
Yeah, it worked out, everything perfect. We couldn't plan it better. Patrick did a massive job to gain some position, so I hadn't so much work to do, but it was really hard to stay concentrated, and our first victory in the second weekend sounds good.
Yeah. Sounds good, doesn't it, Patrick? I know you were watching Nikolai charge there from the back. Luckily, it ended well for you, right?
Yeah, it ended perfectly. First win for us as a team. So it just feels amazing. Yeah, I had a good start, good first couple of laps, good fighting with other guys, and I knew the pit stop then was crucial. And yeah, Reini, I think, did the massive job at the out laps, and his first lap was really, really quick. So that basically brought us the win in the end. So yeah, really happy. Congratulations.
Let's see how the next race goes.
Thanks to KTM and True Racing and Wright Engineering.
Thanks, guys.
Tick all the boxes. Thank everybody. A quick word about pit stops, because this weekend the TM Performance Pit Stop Challenge has been introduced to reward the teams that get nearest to that delta time, 98 seconds here. We've got one, of course, 98.8 seconds, but the MDM Motorsports team did 98.1 in the context of the Simon Knapp Alec Udell BMW. So that is an excellent job, by a tenth of a second, just slightly over the time. But that's very, very good indeed, and that will certainly get the reward of TM Performance. Right, the drivers are heading to the podium at the end of a very lively first GT4 European Series race. So the drivers make their way to the podium. Let's look at the highlights of a very, very busy GT4 European Series Race 1 here at Brands Hatch. This was the first big drama, as Mad Sillyhaug got involved with Nikki Leutweiler, and we had a full course yellow to get the damaged Porsche out of harm's way. Patrick Niederhauser in the KTM making his way up the order. Oleg Karuk had this big accident coming out of Clark Curve, lost it, having run wide through the gravel, came across the road heavily into the barrier. That meant a lot of sweeping up to be done and a safety car period. When the race got back underway, we had one or two bailing early for the pit lane. The KTM moving itself up into second place. And as the race leader came in for Florian Thomas to give way to Akhil Ravindra, there was even more shuffling lower down the pack as the cars accelerated their way through Hawthorns. But Reinhard Koffler in the lead of the race, getting away. Dan Mackay struggling to get past Akhil Ravindra. He never quite made it, in fairness. We had this great battle between Ravindra and Nikolai Müller-Madsen until Müller-Madsen did this, coming out of Sheen. The Audi R8 becoming an R7.5 with the damage, and that was that car out of the race. It meant, therefore, that Akil Rabindra had Mackay back on his tail. Mackay brought Jan Kisiel with him, and for second, third and fourth places, they ran together all the way to the end of the race. Mackay using every bit of real estate in his efforts to hang on to the place. But up front, no question about the winner. Reinhard Koffler coming through with Patrick Niederhauser to win race 1 here at Brands Hatch. So another look at the results as we wait for the drivers to go to the podium. A win for Reinhard Koffler and Patrick Niederhauser from Florian Thoma and Akil Rabindra. Dan Mackay and Benjamin Lesen taking third from Jan Kisiel, Max Kobolt, Jeremy Sahi and David Gries in the fifth, and then Simon Knapp and Alec Udell rounding out the top 6. 1 and 2 teams, as I was saying during the course of that race, now with a lot of work to do for race 2, and some big names not making it to the end, the likes of Suhail Ayari, and certainly the reigning Silver Cup champion binning it like he did, Nikolai Müller-Madsen. Big surprise that, and he will want to bounce back in the best possible way rather than bouncing out of barriers when we get to race 2 later on in the day here. So it's a standalone qualifying session, of course, for the other driver that has dictated the grid for the second race. So the grid already formed, barring any penalties from this, that will go into the mix. But it's therefore not based on the results of race 1, which makes, for some of the non-finishers, a slightly better situation. So everybody in the cool-down area, ready to be called forward onto the podium. And very shortly indeed, we'll get the drivers up for the presentations. Nina Fifner, who is the series manager, making sure that everybody is where they need to be. All the dignitaries are there ready to make the presentations as well. And for third place in the Silver Cup, Dan Mackay and Benjamin Lesen step forward. In the Equipe Peugeot McLaren for second place, Akil Rabindra and Florian Thoma. In the Pro Sport Performance, Aston Martin. But for the race winners, True Racing's Reinhard Koffler and Patrick Niederhauser, the KTM drivers, make their way onto the top step of the podium at the end of race 1. For True Racing, the team that operates the KTM are Patrick Niederhauser, the Swiss driver, and the Austrian Reinhard Koffler, the national anthem then of the winning team. And now the presentations are to be made to the winning drivers. Mike Groves from Motorsport Vision, Brands Hatch's circuit manager, steps forward with the trophies for Dan Mackay and Benjamin Lesen. The Mackay brothers both in the race, and no doubt Dad Paul here as well to cheer them on. Recovering from a very nasty accident he had at Spa in Carrera Cup GB a few years ago, but it's good that he's recovered so well. But to the winning drivers, the trophies for Patrick Niederhauser and Reinhard Koffler. They stand together on the top step. There are championship awards and the champagne is there, but they've got another race to come, so they don't want to be sitting in a race car in sticky, smelly overalls. They will make their way from the podium and go and do racing drivery things like looking at data and all of that, unless you happen to work for Reiter Engineering, in which case, hard luck, you're going to get a soaking, because the team has operated a great car and great pit strategy to come out on top. So for the Reiter Engineering squad, Patrick Niederhauser and Reinhard Koffler gang up and soak the drivers and the team representative. We're going to have the Pro-Am and the Am podiums very shortly, for which the podium is being made ready. A great Pro-Am battle that we had with the Mercedes versus BMW battle. And so now the drivers being brought forward for third in the Pro-Am contest. You see Fiona James step forward along with Tom Wood. Then out come Gabriele Piana and Marius Zug, but it is Lucky Trefts and Marcus Pavarud who take honours here in Pro-Am at Brands Hatch. So the national anthem for the winning team. Leipert Motorsport operates the car for Lucky Trefts and Marcus Pavarud. And Mike Grove steps forward once more to hand over the trophies there for the Academy Motorsport Aston Martin drivers, Tom Wood and Fiona James. Then for second place, Gabriele Piana, who tried everything to get past, but as he shrugs, couldn't quite do it. And Marius Zug, his co-driver in his first year of car racing. Lucky Trefts and Marcus Pavarud then take honours for Leipert Motorsport as they stand on the top step of the podium. Very, very happy indeed here at Brands Hatch. Fiona James and Tom Wood in the car run by Matt Nicol-Jones's Academy Motorsport team. For many years, Matt, a very successful racer as well as team owner in Ginetta Racing, making the step into GT4 with Aston Martin. And the drivers then celebrate on the podium. Of course, there's also the AM Cup, for which the winning drivers will be brought forward in a moment. And all smiles in the cool-down room. The podium is being prepared. There the drivers all ready, and all smiles at the end of another frantic race. So the drivers are good to go. And the third place drivers step forward, Lisette Brahms and Gabi Ullier, taking third place in the Las Moras by Keith Verschoor McLaren. And as the drivers make their way onto the podium, Clement Seiler and Pascal Bachmann, the category winners. Clement Seiler, who had quite a bit of work to do in his stint. Pascal Bachmann, who's done precious little circuit racing, was near the back of the grid, but they come through to win the class. So Pascal Bachmann and Clement Seiler, the AM Cup winners, and the trophies are set to be presented there to Lisette Brahms and Gabi Ullier as the third placed finishers in the Verschoor McLaren. Then for second place, Eric Mouet and David Loget. Despite the fact it's Porsche overalls, it's an Alpine that they've been driving. But then the Aston Martin drivers, Pascal Bachmann and Clement Seiler, take the class win. And as they smile on the podium, everybody delighted with, in this context, their result, because they're on the podium. And the pros didn't, but the AMs are contemplating spraying the champagne. Lisette Brahms, whose husband and son, in fact, Max, has been intricately involved in the championship as well as the series manager for a time. Huge supporters of GT4 racing, whether it's organising it or being on track. And Clement Seiler, former motocrosser, now car racer, celebrating his class win as well. So we've had race 1 at Brands Hatch, and we've had plenty of action. The second race will start at 2:45 local time, and it is now 25 to 12 local time. But we look forward to more great action from the GT4 European Series later on in the day. Join us for that if you can. For now, from Brands Hatch, from David Addison, goodbye.